was weird how it wasn't working.
Yeah, it needed to reconnect or something.
Hmm.
Okay, well, it's good to see you. How have you been doing?
I've been doing pretty good. I did. I'm just fixing this here. I've got it on a pillow, and I realized it was too short. I did do some homework and worked on some of the stuff we talked about working on,
Okay, tell me about it.
and it went well. Actually, I shouldn't say that. The first day, I wrote it down. It was kind of funny, but um, let's see. See what I wrote it down, so I made notes so I could know where I need to work on things. But so I think it was like the very next night after we talked, and we got invited over for supper. And so my husband was like, I don't know, like, would you be okay going out for supper? I'm like, actually, yes, because then I can work on some of my homework.
Okay.
So as soon as we got there, well, actually, he wasn't. He had to work, so it was just myself and my three kids that went over there. And as soon as I had walked into the room, I loudly said hello and really nicely. And I think his dad had said hi back, but his mom never said anything.
Okay.
So I was like, so I was like, okay, like I can't expect a change right away, right? But at least, and then throughout the whole time at dinner, we sat across from each other and never spoke a word. So it was awkward.
Okay.
But I noticed that there was a change in how I felt.
Good.
Because I said hello first. I kind of felt like it still bothered me and it still hurt.
Yeah.
But I had this new feeling of, well, at least I can say I want to say better. I did better in this situation. I spoke out. So I kept that in mind. But it was interesting how it kind of changed a little bit, inside me anyways. It didn't really change the outcome of that day.
Right. That's amazing. That's so great.
Pardon?
That's so great. I'm so happy that you were able to do that for yourself.
Yeah. So it was good because it was kind of right. It was the very next day.
Yeah.
So it was good.
It was fresh.
I kind of figured my husband's on three days of working. It's probably not going to happen until he's off work. We'll be invited over there. And and it did happen because our well ran out of water.
Oh.
So we had an issue with the water. Were you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I frozen?
Okay. Your camera just disappeared, but that's
I'm
okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Maybe there's a weird update or something happening. But yeah, our well had run out of water, so they had invited us over so that we could wash our hands. And we were getting our well fixed, but he couldn't come out till the following day. So that's how that happened.
Okay. I mean, that's, you went into that situation, determined and
yeah.
Right?
I was like, I think I can do this. You kind of talked me into it. So I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I can try it. And then I had multiple other times, and I never made notes on it, unfortunately. I kept meaning to, but by the time you get home and put the kids to bed, you're kind of tired, right?
Yeah, of course.
But most of the other times that I did it worked. There was a good response back. And it kind of changed, I would say it kind of changed the dynamic of the evening.
Wow.
I think for both of us in a way. But I would say, let's say since you and I talked, we probably had, I want to say maybe 6 situations where I was able to go and say hi first, really out there, right?
Yeah.
And I would say maybe twice it didn't go in my favor.
Okay.
But I still, like I said before, I had that feeling of, well, I've done it, at least I've tried, and it felt better. What was the one day? Oh, there was another day where I had come into the backyard, and I didn't see her. She was around the corner, but I saw my father-in-law, so I loudly said, hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
And So then when I came around the corner and saw that she was there and that she would have heard me, I didn't say it again.
Okay.
I kind of just wanted to see
Okay.
what would happen. And she never said hi.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should have just kind of bit my tongue and said hi again. But I didn't. I chose not to. So then it did bug me.
Okay.
So there was that. And then on like Mother's Day, we had to go over to Colin's sister's house for family gathering.
Mm-hmm.
So both of his sisters were there, their husbands, their children, Colin's parents, and then Colin's sister's husband's parents.
Okay.
So when I had come in, I was untying my shoes and I knew she was there out of the corner of my eye, but I hadn't looked up yet. And there was nothing. And then when I got up and walked into the kitchen, she wasn't there. And she'd gone outside. So when I walked outside, and I was nervous about this because I'm not really a fan of saying Happy Mother's Day.
Okay.
Like I would to my own mom, but because of the situation
Sure.
with her, it makes me feel uncomfortable, right? So I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So I got out there and I saw Colin's sister first. And I said Happy Mother's Day to her, and she said Happy Mother's Day back. And then I looked up and I saw her and I said Happy Mother's Day, and nothing in return.
Oh no.
So it did bug me. I told my husband and I said, oh, I really tried. I said it there. And he said, oh, she said it back. And I said, no, she didn't. I was looking right at her. And I said, you can't honestly tell me that you heard her say Happy Mother's Day to you too. Because most of you, like if I say Happy Mother's Day to Stephanie, she's not my mother. Like that's just his sister. But it just seems like that's what they do.
Yeah.
And then so she's like, oh, Happy Mother's Day to you. And even strangers will say Happy Mother's Day to you, right?
Yeah.
I don't usually to strangers because I don't know. Are they a mom?
Sure.
Are they not a mom? Are they trying to be mom and it's not working? And it could be an upsetting thing. So I'm leery to say unless I know their mother.
Sure.
So I do know like people say it to people that aren't their own mother.
Yeah.
So that kind of bugged me.
Yeah.
I'm like, right? But I know it's like we're going from 16 years of like that sort of thing to now all of a sudden coming out there and saying it. So I can't expect miracles, like kind of thing, right? So I just kind of told myself, okay, try to just ignore it. It's not a big deal. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
But I think in the 2 or 3 weeks that I've seen, like since I've seen you, I would say that I kind of feel like I have to always be the one that's always going to say it first. I don't like, there was another situation where I purposely just didn't say anything, wanted to see, and it still didn't happen. So, and I did like talk to my husband. I'm like, so it seems like it doesn't matter whose house. So like if I'm a guest there, I'm expected to say it first. If they're a guest at my house, I'm expected to say it first.
Yeah.
So I think it's more like a generation class kind of look. I'm looked lowered upon, I'm thinking. So it makes it hard because it's uncomfortable for me to do. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Like I don't really enjoy it.
Of course.
But it seems like you said, it might just kind of change the whole dynamic of the gathering. And it kind of did.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just inside myself or they too are projecting more positively. I don't know. But I do kind of think that as of right now, it looks like it's got to be just me, which kind of bugs me.
Of course. I mean, I think it's amazing that you're trying like so hard, right? Like you're really trying to be the bigger person and take all these steps. And it really sucks, right? Like it sucks hard that she couldn't even say it back to you. Like how crappy is that?
Yeah. And like, I know like, obviously I'm going to therapy to work on this. She's not going to therapy. So there's nothing that she feels she needs to work on.
Yeah.
So it is probably going to be me doing it. But I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I guess I just got to get over that part.
I mean, I don't think you're expected to get over that. I think for you, it might be helpful for us to help you figure out a way to be in her presence and to kind of reduce some of your discomfort that you feel, right? Like, I think it's wonderful that when you walked in and you said you were the first one to say hello and you felt better, right? Like this wasn't about her anymore. It was about you. And
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if it means going in there and being the first one to say hello, and that means making you feel better, then
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? It's not so much about making her feel better, because we recognize that the dynamic is a little bit tricky here. And
Yeah.
with years and the generational gap and the expectations that she might have, this is
Hmm.
this is really about how to make you feel the most comfortable being around
Yeah.
her, because it's not going to change. You are going to be around her frequently and often, and
Yeah.
it's not fair, right? It's not fair for you to have to feel this way every time you're around her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure
And
it didn't feel
it's
good
funny
when.
too, because there was a second piece of homework, like with the facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had wrote notes after our meeting down, and it was like, if you're talking and then all of a sudden she makes an expression, you could go, oh, is something wrong? And then, she'd be like, no, nothing's wrong. I'm like, oh, okay, just the expression you made me think something was wrong, but that's okay. I'll continue, right? So I was like, I don't know if I can do all of this at
Yeah, of
once,
course,
right?
of course.
Like I'm already doing the hello thing. So I don't know, but I tried to prep myself, but I never actually had an opportunity to do that. And I think it was because I didn't overly share as much. Like I didn't talk
Mm.
about my day, or I didn't have anything to really share. I was probably a little nervous with the whole hello thing, but Colin also did a lot of the talking.
Okay.
So I didn't really have an opportunity to do that yet, which I'm kind of grateful for, because I don't know if I would have been able to do it all. But Colin knows about this. So it was interesting, because there was a time where he was talking to her and she was going, right?
Mm.
So I'm like, oh, she's doing it to him too. It's like, I'm thinking this in my head, right? Because I thought she only always did that to me. And so he stopped talking and goes, is something wrong, Ma?
Oh, wow.
And she goes, no. And he's like, okay, because you were just making like your face expression just look like there was like you were mad with what I'm saying. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, thank you. Like in my head, I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I got to see like him do it.
Mm.
And I'm like, I'm gonna have to make sure I tell him when I get home, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that, because I've wanted to do that for like 16 years. But I think he did it because he was more aware and he saw it. So I think he did it for like more my sake than his. He probably would have just ignored it. So I was like, okay. So it was kind of nice, because I'm like, okay, I think I can do that. I can do that. So
Okay.
eventually I'll try to do that.
Were you able to talk to him about that afterwards? Like, did you?
I think I did mention to him when we got home, and I said, oh my gosh, I was like so amazed that you said that. And I think I just said thank you. And he's like, I think he just said you're welcome. Like, we didn't really like discuss it in
Okay.
great detail, but I think it was more something like he was doing it for me.
Hmm. That must have felt really nice that he did that for you.
Yeah. And then I also got to just kind of see
What happens?
see how it went
Yeah.
without me being the one doing it. Yeah, it was kind of cool.
How would you describe Mom's reaction when he questioned it?
She just said, no, nothing's wrong.
Hmm.
Like she had no idea.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So does that
Yeah.
bring you any kind of comfort or clarity in terms of when she makes these faces?
It did. Yeah, well, it did kind of, like, he's always said, oh, that's just her face. And I go,
Okay.
well, I think I said to him, like, if I made a face like that to you when you were talking, you'd definitely stop and
Mm-hmm.
ask, right? I said, but maybe you're just used to it with her and you don't realize, but it is not a nice feeling. So I think, like, because we had just talked about it, he was more aware of it, maybe. Maybe he was watching for it. I don't know. I didn't really ask. But it did kind of give me a sense that maybe it is just a face expression that she makes,
Okay.
and that it, like, like, not saying that she has to change that, like, maybe, like, if other people made face expressions like that, I think nobody would want to talk to anybody, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it does have to change, but maybe I shouldn't take it as personally that
Okay.
she's doing that because she feels a certain way about me. Maybe it's just the way she reacts to things.
Mhm. Mhm.
If she does it to her own son. So, but I've never seen her do it to him before. So that was kind of new too.
Interesting. Do you
Yeah.
feel do you feel like you've been holding back a little bit because you've been scared to have that conversation or the interaction happen, so you haven't been sharing much?
Um, Maybe because I was already so nervous, like even walking down to their house, like it's only two houses down, but even walking down to their house and me thinking, okay, as soon as I walk in, I'm going to be like, hi. And I'm going to be like, ready to say, I'm good, not like, oh, the day's been so frustrating, right? And just be positive. I'm psyching myself up so much that I think that I'm like, I don't want to have the face expression too. So I'm just going to just sit back and not talk as much unless I'm asked a question.
Mhm.
So I did hold back on purpose because I think I'm like, I don't want to miss the opportunity
Yeah.
to to try that homework, but then I also don't want to force the opportunity to come up. So I figured I'm like, I'll just work on one thing at a time and see how this goes.
Yeah, which is
So
great. I think that's
because
amazing,
I would,
right?
it.
And that's very overwhelming, right? Like the fact that you're saying that just on the walk there, you're psyching yourself up and preparing for this greeting that you're
Yeah,
going to make when you get in there. That in
yeah,
itself
because
is a lot, right?
yeah, because like I really don't want to. Like I would like to go in and they go hi and make me feel welcome. I don't want to
Yeah.
go in and know that if I don't say hi first, there's going to be nothing, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to feel like down, right? So I'm not. It's not like I'm looking forward to. It doesn't like walking into my parents' house. I would just naturally be like, "Hey, mom,
Yeah.
hi," or "Hi, dad,
Yeah.
how's it going?" Right? It would just come. It would just flow. Like I wouldn't even think of it. It would just happen.
Yeah.
But it's different with this situation.
Absolutely. Do you find
Yeah.
that with this new approach that you're trying, does it get easier each time, or are you experiencing the same level of stress and
Yeah, no, it does. It does get easier. I would say the only time this past week, maybe since like Mother's Day, I would say the only time it wasn't easy is when I purposely decided not to do it just to see what would happen. Because I wanted to see, I've been saying hi every single time now, so would it naturally get given back to me? But it didn't. So I don't know. That kind of like bombed in my whole plan
hmm.
there.
Okay, so you were trying
That's okay.
to
Like,
you
it's
were
only the
trying to
beginning.
yeah, and so I guess you were trying to test to see if your behavior change reflected a behavior change in them.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because it did kind of seem to me, and it could just be like my view is changing a bit, but when I did make sure I said it first,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like the whole evening they were more positive spoken, like more upbeat talking to me, right? But it could have just been because I felt a little bit happier because I kind of avoided that weird feeling.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I mean, it sounds, I think I wouldn't want to take that away from you, right? Like the fact that you went in there and, was the first one, took initiative, said hello. And if you felt like
Yeah,
you were receiving a more of a positive response throughout the evening, I wouldn't want you to take away from that and say, well, maybe it was just because I was feeling better or this. Like, maybe it's true. Maybe you presenting that
yeah,
way did elicit something out of them.
yeah, yeah. True. Yeah,
I know last session you mentioned that you feel, I guess, like sad or frustrated that you just can't be your natural self when you walk into your
yeah,
in law's home. And you mentioned that a little bit just now. How are you managing
yeah,
that
yeah.
feeling?
Pardon?
How are you managing that feeling? Is it still really intense? Is it like, what is, How would you
Um,
describe it now?
I would say it's not more intense. I wouldn't say is as intense. It's still there. I think I'm kind of doing a lot of, I would say, self reflecting while I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
like questioning myself, like, is this the reason why I felt this way? Or I'm also very careful. Like, I know, so, like, for example, oh, I couldn't think of an actual example, but if I knew there was a topic that I say wanted to bring up, but I know that it's a topic that would just get them in a funky mood because they can't seem to handle like negative stuff. If it's negative stuff that they've chosen to talk about, they're fine with it. But if
Mm.
I was just like, oh, like I didn't like if I said, oh, like if they were talking about the food or something, and I said, oh, that one dish, wasn't really a fan of that one dish, would be like, like they just can't handle it. So I would just like, I'd maybe go to say something and then be like, no, this isn't a topic that they can handle, so I'm just not going to say it.
Mm.
So I do find like, I feel like sometimes I don't know what to say. So I just don't say anything at all. And then I'm looked at as being quiet
Mm.
or not really engaging. So they might go and say, is something wrong? And I'm like, no, nothing's wrong. But then I don't really know what to say because I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like it just
Yeah.
seems like I don't know. Like when we had the well problem, we're all talking there and they're thinking the worst. Colin's so nervous and almost like so upset about the well issue that it could be like we might need a new well dug and it might be $30,000 and they offered us to come over for supper and Colin was like, oh, I don't think I can eat. Like this is so upsetting. And so they were talking back and forth about what could be wrong with the well and they're thinking like worst scenarios. And I said, well, really like I looked up, I Googled all the different things about problems with the well, and it could be the well pump. Maybe it's just the pump that's broken, and that's like a $300 fix. You
Yeah.
replace the pump, and then you see if that's the issue. And if that's the issue, then problem solved. But if it's not the issue, then you'd move on to like maybe it's the pressure switch or maybe it's the valve. And Colin's dad's like, no, no, no. It would never be that. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. Your issue is water. And I go, well, I know, but it's saying here, and I like list off all the symptoms: low water pressure, running out of water, all this like pressure not coming back. I'm like, these are all the symptoms of a faulty pump. So then the well people come and they say the first thing that we'll do is we'll change the pump because it's 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking, okay, that's like what I said. So so then they're like, and if it's not the pump, we'll check the pressure switch. I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, see? So then I'm like, that's exactly what. Oh, so then they go, see, I told you it was like Colin and then Colin's dad. See, I told you it was the pump, and that's what we were supposed to start with. I go, that's exactly what I said. Like I said, it could be the pump,
Yeah.
and you guys just shot me down. You
Yeah.
guys were all thinking the worst, and you're thinking tens and thousands of dollars. And I'm like, it could just be a $200 fix. Oh, no, no, no. And I go, that's what I said. Oh, no, no, you didn't. Like, that's what we said. And I go, fine. So I just like dropped it. But it's like, I was hoping in that moment, maybe, that they go, wow, staff, you were right. We
Yeah.
all were thinking worst case, and you thought, oh, it's just this 200 thing. That's awesome, like a positive thing. But it's like, no, no. We always said that was the case. So it's
Oh.
like, oh.
It's like,
So unfortunately, we got the pump fit. Like we got the pump replaced. It was 32 years old. It wasn't the pump.
oh
So
boy.
like, but it had to be replaced anyways.
Right.
We're still waiting on the well guy to come back, and it might be just there's like a foot of sand in the bottom of the well, and they've got to take that sand out and see if it helps the flow come back. So
Mm-hmm.
hoping that's what it is, and then we'll move on to the next steps. But usually, like the well people said, you tick off all these boxes, and then when all those things have been determined, if it is or it isn't,
Yeah.
then you might end up eventually going saying, yeah, you got to dig a new well. But um, I don't know.
Mm.
Anyways,
That must have felt really, frustrating. It was almost like you were invisible in that moment.
yeah, like it didn't matter what I said, and so me naturally would think So I'm getting shot down because I'm a female. What do
Mm.
I know? If Colin had said that, I don't think it would have been, no, 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 it's not the pump. No, it's not the switch, right? The problem is you don't have water. And so I think it's a girl thing.
Mm.
I don't
You
know.
you feel like your input and your opinions are not heard or valued? Is that like a common?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're not heard. And then when it turns out that, like, the well guy says, first we got to change the pump. Let's not talk about drilling a well. Let's just go to the pump first, see what that is. And I was kind of like, huh? And they were like, oh, that's what I said. Like, they said, like, oh, that's what I said today. And I go, what? That's what I said. So, like, it was just, I think they truly believe that's what they said.
Mm.
But I didn't make a big deal about it. I'm kind of used to that sort of thing happening.
Did your husband acknowledge that you had said this?
No, he said that, Dad. So I did say, like, when we were alone, I did say, it ended up being the pump that they wanted to fix, and that's exactly what I was trying to bring up when you and your dad were kind of arguing about all the different things that it could be, and you were thinking worst case scenarios, and you wouldn't eat. And I said, why don't we just, like, look at that? It might just be the pump. And I got shot down by both of you guys, and I said, and your dad said, no, 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 and he goes, Stephanie, you're wrong. What are you talking about? Dad was very supportive of all your ideas. And I'm
Mm.
like, what? I said, he would either interrupt me or tell me no before I even finished my sentence. I said he was not supportive at all. And so I was like, I don't understand this, how you see them so differently. And then I questioned myself, obviously,
Yeah.
I obviously will question myself and go, well, could he have been supportive? And then I'm like thinking back to what he was saying and how I was feeling at the time. I'm like, no, that was just like, no, 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 that's not what it is. No, no, no. So I decided, like, when we were having this conversation, Colin and I, to just drop it because I'm like, I don't want to argue about it. So
Oh.
it's very, he's very, like, tunnel vision when it comes to that, I think.
I mean, that's really hard because not only did you have these suggestions, but then you also took the steps to talk to your husband afterwards and address how you were feeling, and he
Yeah.
just he just shut you down when you were doing that.
Yeah, and then so I can think of it both ways. So I can think of, one, it's positive. I feel like I can go to him and tell him how I'm feeling, right? And be heard. And then, but then there's two, like, I feel like, I'd love it if you would kind of take my side and be supportive of me. He always instantly supports, no, no, Dad could have done no wrong. Like, he's very loyal, which is also a positive thing because it's good to have family members be loyal to each other. Um, so, like, they're good attributes, but they're also kind of frustrating attributes at the same time.
Well, yeah,
So,
and like I hear you, and if he's not understanding of your side, is he really hearing you? And
well, yeah, he might not be. I did, like, in the example of, like, when I had mentioned, like, I'm really trying, Colin. You see, I'm trying. And when I said Happy Mother's Day to your mom, she didn't say Happy Mother's Day back. Not that it really matters, but everybody else said it back and forth. But when
it
I
does
said it,
matter.
and it was uncomfortable for me to even say it to her, I could have just not said it at all. And he immediately backs her up. So I said, it's really unfair that I can easily do things wrong, and you can point out what I do wrong, but she can never do anything wrong.
Yeah,
Even when it's right there in front of your face, you just
yeah,
automatically goes, oh, she said it too, which she didn't, because I
yeah,
was right there. I looked right at her.
yeah.
Like, normally I wouldn't have cared, but because I'm trying, I'm making sure that I'm listening to
Mm-hmm.
see the response I get so I can learn from it. And I said I was listening and I was looking at her. So, um, I don't know if that's something that could ever change, but it does seem like very quick to defend, I would say.
Yeah, and what's also making me wonder is like you said, there's loyalty, which is a great attribute, but
Mhm.
where's the loyalty to you, and where is the defending of you, right, as your
Yeah,
husband?
yeah, and I did say that. I did kind of bring that up as well. Like, I get she's been around much longer in his life than I have, right? So I can't just expect that to turn off. But I did say, I said to him, "Oh, I know. I want today. We were walking over there um, to drop something off before supper, and I wanted to hold his hand. And he's not very big on public display of affection. And we're just walking down the road, and I wanted to hold his hand, and he didn't really want to. And I said, you know, what is so bad about your mom and dad seeing us hold hands walking down the side of the road? And
Hmm.
I said, if anything, it would show that you support me more. Like, it would show that, like, if you support me, maybe they would support me. If we're showing that, like, we're happy together, kind of thing, right? Um, and so I think I did kind of mention that, like, if you showed me more support, maybe they would naturally, or like defended me kind of in front of them, then maybe it would naturally have them look at me in a different light too. I don't know.
Hmm. So when you questioned him about holding hands, his response was that, oh, it would actually make us look stronger together. Is that what his response was?
No, I said I think it would make us look
Oh, okay.
stronger. Like, I said, like, it's not like your parents are gonna look and go like, oh my God, they're holding hands in public. Like, they would probably just go, oh, like they're happy, they're holding hands, kind of thing, right? Um, I think he's like embarrassed. Like, that's been an issue with us before. Like, say at, for example, at the hockey arena, like my parents, I grew up, they always displayed affection. They would kiss each other
Mhm.
goodbye, they would hug. It didn't matter who was around. They would hold hands. Heck, sometimes they just start dancing in the kitchen together, like
Oh.
while making supper, right? And I never was embarrassed by that. And if I see somebody in public hug or not think of anything else, or I might just go, "Oh, that's cute," right, and move on with my life. In the hockey arena, if we're there and there's a bunch of like friends around and stuff like that, and say we're there watching our son play hockey, and I have to leave to go to work, I would naturally want to lean in, give him a kiss, say goodbye, see you tomorrow, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? But he would naturally pull back, or
Oh.
he'd dart his eyes back and forth to see who's looking. And I said to him, and I think I've never seen his parents be affectionate, so I think he probably didn't grow up with that.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of like, oh, people are watching you, and that's not something that you show other people. But in my mind, it's loving and it's caring, and it's not something that you need to hide. Like, we're not making out. It's like a quick little, right,
Yeah.
or hug goodbye, or even like a hand hold or something, right? But when he darts his eyes around, I say, when you do that, it hurts my feelings.
Of
It looks like
course.
you're looking to see who would see me show affection to her, um, what and be judged or whatever. And I don't think anybody would care or even notice.
Mhm.
And then it makes me question, like, why wouldn't you want somebody to know that you want to kiss or hug goodbye?
Yeah.
My job is just personal support worker, not very dangerous. But if it was the reverse, and he's going to work, and saying goodbye to me, he could get killed at work. He's a police officer. I might never see him again.
Yeah.
So what is so bad about giving a quick hug and saying love you? Instead, just I go, and then he pulls away,
Oh.
um, because he's embarrassed, right? So I've told him, like, it makes me feel like, either, like, I get that you feel insecure to hug somebody, but if you look at other relationships, they all say goodbye, hug, hold hands, kiss, whatever, a quick, goodbye. Um, so I go, you kind of feel like, well, why? Like, is it because there's like me being paranoid, thinking like, is there a girl that that you
Mm.
might like you don't want her to see that you love your wife. Like I just,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like it makes me have kind of paranoid thoughts, I guess I would
Yeah.
say.
Of course, your mind is going to go to so many different places.
Exactly. So like that's something I've kind of tried to work on with him, and I explain how it makes me feel, and I'm like I'm not trying to be like too much public display of affection. Like I'm not wanting to like
Make
French
out.
kiss you
Yeah.
goodbye or something like
Yeah.
that. But it's almost, I said it's embarrassing for me if I lean in to give you a hug or a
Yeah.
kiss and you kind of back away or quickly dart your eyes. And I said it's embarrassing if people saw that, I think. But like so that's I got kind of off topic there. But when we were walking down the road and I went to grab his hand and he wouldn't even hold my hand walking down the street,
Yeah.
I'm just like, would it be so bad if your parents saw us holding hands?
Yeah. Of
I don't know.
course. I
Like they
mean,
must not think we hate each other because I've been living here for 16 years in the same
right.
roof, right? But I think if he showed me more affection, maybe in front of them, they'd be, I don't know.
Yeah. And also, like, that's just your natural response to being around, someone you love. You want to be affectionate with
Mhm.
them.
Yeah,
Has he explained
yeah.
to you, um, like, have you had a real discussion or conversation around what makes him not want to engage in that kind of affection with you?
Um, well, I asked him once and he said, well, he said, how did he describe it? Oh, people don't need to see that. Um, yeah, or like, like, yeah, people don't need to see that. It's, I think he's just embarrassed by it, I guess. I don't know. I think it's probably just because he's not used to seeing it growing up. So, or like everyone's watching you. And I'm like, everyone's really not watching you. Like if you look around, they're all watching their kids playing hockey. Nobody's paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
They might happen to notice, but they're not going to be like, ugh, he's kissing his wife goodbye. They'd be like, oh, they probably, if they even thought anything, they'd be like, oh, that's sweet, right?
Yeah.
They like each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Is he affectionate with
I don't
you
know.
in the home? Like when no one else is around, is he affectionate?
Yeah, like if I wanted to hold his hand at home, well, he might be busy, but if you're watching a movie and I put my hand over, like we'd hold hands.
Mm.
Or if I was leaving the house and I want, like we've tend to kind of like not do it as much anymore. Like if he's leaving for work and I give him a quick kiss goodbye as he walks out the door. Sometimes we just like I'm washing dishes. I'm like, yeah, bye, kind of
Mm.
thing, right? And I've told him, I'm like, I think that if we did more of those sort of things, like a hug goodbye, I think it would naturally just bring us closer together than drifting kind of like apart, which I think is probably a normal thing for relationships. Like you're washing dishes, like bye, see ya, like have a good day. And you just
Yeah.
don't think of like, oh, I'll dry my hands, I'll walk over. We've been together for 16 years. Like you don't really need to. But I
Yeah.
think if you do more of that and do more hugs, then you're naturally closer and happier together, kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Would you would you want or hope that he would maybe take some initiative? Like you're doing the dishes, he could walk over to you before he goes to the door,
True.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, and I think he would like if I talked about it more and I said, "Oh, we should do this more." But I don't think it naturally comes to him. Like he'll do it because he knows that's what I want.
Mm.
So like for example, and I'm just looking at the time, not to get it like into too much, but um, sometimes like we're not as affectionate, but he'll still want to be like sexual at the end of the night.
Okay.
But I'm not really in the mood.
Yeah.
And so I said, like, you can just, be the way you are all day long. And then it's like, okay, it's nighttime. Let's be intimate.
Yeah.
But me, it's like, well, I'm missing all the hugs and the cuddles and the snuggles
Yeah.
and cuddling on the couch watching a movie. Instead, we're busy all day long cleaning, not really doing anything. And then all of a sudden at night, you just want to turn it
Turn it
on.
on, yeah.
And I'm not really like that. And so that's bothering him. And I'm trying to explain, well, there's things in the relationship that I'm missing, and that's why I'm not as forthcoming in the
Mm,
evening, right?
yeah.
So we've been working on that too. Um, it hasn't been going well, but I've been trying to explain to him why I'm not as into it as he does. Like he doesn't need all those things, the cuddles and the snuggles, and I think that's a gender thing.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I'm kind of thinking like, well, if this is kind of like what you want, and I would give you that at the end of the day, then maybe you need to reciprocate and give what I need, and maybe I'll be more. I don't know if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
of course, right? Like you're looking for that emotional connection with him. And,
Hmm.
if you're having this distance between the two of you throughout the day, and then, at nighttime, the expectation is to just be like, okay, let's go for this. Like it doesn't really align with what you're feeling.
Hmm.
When you said that you're working on it and it's not going so well, what do you mean by that?
Well, so like I think like maybe like in the past, the annoyances that I've had with his parents too, I'm kind of like in a mood with that, and then we might argue a little bit about it. So we're not kind of given the opportunity to have those like cuddle times and stuff like that. But I have explained like in the end of the day, like when he's like, "Oh, I want to do this," and I go, "Well, I'm not. I don't want to." And then
Mm-hmm.
he goes, "Well, you never want to really anymore," and I go, "Well." I think it's because I'm missing stuff that I want in the relationship. We're not going, we don't go out on many dates because we've got the three kids, and
Yeah.
we're busy, and and especially with summer coming now, like there's no snow, so you're busy with the gardening work and laundry being hung up outside and like all these different things, right? That the day just kind of flies by and it's
Yeah.
gone, and then you've got all the parenting when the kids come home from school and you're exhausted, and sometimes all I want to do, I don't want to do that. I
Yeah.
just want to lay in bed and cuddle
Yeah.
and just watch a show. And to him it's just like, well, but I also want to do this. And I go, well, I don't. And
Mm.
so I'm trying to explain how it doesn't mean that I don't love you, it just means that I don't feel like it because I'm not getting everything I want to feel like. I think if I got more, then I would naturally feel like that. I think men just like down there just kind of rules the roost. It doesn't really matter how they're emotionally feeling. I just think it's just like we're not like that. And so I told him like it's just not the same. So like I just would love to cuddle. And then with that suggestion, he's like, well, I'd rather just go to bed than I'm tired, right?
Mm.
Cuddling and watching, that's a waste of time. He doesn't understand the same importance, I guess.
So it sounds like he's not willing to do the things that you're looking for, that you need in order to be more intimate with him.
Yeah. And I don't want it to sound like an ultimatum. I'm just trying to explain like how I feel. Like I'm just
Yeah,
not feeling as in the mood, and I think it's probably because, well, one, I'm exhausted, two, from the day, but two, it's because I'm missing things, I
absolutely.
guess.
Yeah. I mean, your needs need to be met as well, right? This is not a relationship, is a partnership, and if your needs are not being met, you're going to have a really hard time meeting his needs.
Yeah, and in the past we've had this come up, and he's tried really hard, and we've done more, and like me too, making an effort, making sure like I we hug each other goodbye, and we hold hands, or we watch a TV show that we like, and instead of sleeping, or like we have a TV in our room, and we have a king size bed. So instead of like I'm laying on this side, he's laying on that side, we're watching our show together. I make a point of getting closer and cuddling to
Yeah.
watch it. And so in the past, like we've done that more, and it seems to really work. And then like it's great, but then it just all of a sudden fades away again. But it
Mm.
seems like it's more me that
Is
is making
always,
it a point of happening again, if you know what I mean.
yeah, totally, which must be so
So like we've been down this
frustrating.
road before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard thing, right? Because it feels like you're the only one putting in the work or the energy to um, have everyone's needs met, right? You're trying to do things
Yeah.
for you so that you can meet his needs, and
Yeah.
that's only going to be sustainable for so long, which is probably why it fades away after some time, right?
Yeah. And I do find like if I, even though I don't want to meet his needs and I do it anyways, it kind of puts me like down again.
Yeah,
And then the next day, down again.
yeah,
And I just get more into a wreck because I'm like, oh, like, fine, I'll just do it and then like get it over with. Right. But then I'm not like, he's fine, but I'm not happy. Like, I'm just like, how to do it again, like,
yeah.
kind of thing. So I don't know how to work on that.
Well, because you're doing it not by choice, right? You're doing it out of obligation. It's not an enjoyable
Yes.
activity for you. It's you're feeling like you need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of course you're going to feel inside like what am I doing? Like what's going on here that's, I'm having to do this and not getting anything in return.
Hmm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's good that you've been vocalizing your feelings to him and expressing, how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Um, I think I think there's some work to be done here in terms of how to help you um, get your needs met in this relationship.
Hmm.
So I think that's something we can explore together,
Okay.
because that's a really hard way to live each day, to feel like your husband doesn't want to do these things for you, which don't seem like really big things, like a simple hug or a simple kiss as you're
Yeah.
departing from each other doesn't feel like a huge ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you said in the past it was a little bit better?
Yeah, it was like obviously like at the beginning it was perfect like all the time, and then you kind of pass that honeymoon stage, and then it's not as constant. And it's kind of gone in like circles like that. Um, but yeah, it comes and goes because like we'll work on it, and I probably also kind of drift away from that as well, so it's on me too. But but it's definitely, we seem to always go back to that. So it does make me aware like relationships are a lot of work, marriage
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's not just, yeah, we're going to stay together and everything's going to be, whatever, butterflies and roses, whatever that saying is, right? It's actually hard work. Like, you have to put forth an effort all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if one exists that is just always perfect. I don't know if that's even real, but I do think you have to work on it all the time. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it
Especially
has,
when you have so many other factors going on, right? You both have jobs, you have three children to take care of, you have in laws that live down the
yeah,
street. Like, it's easy to get lost in all the life stuff. And then what gets
yeah,
left to the end is your relationship. It gets the least amount of
yeah,
care and love, right?
yeah, exactly.
Ha-
Yeah.
Is your husband open to like couples therapy, couples counseling? What do you think he would be open to that?
We tried it once in the past. Well, for many years he wouldn't. He said, "No, no way. There's no. I've got no problems. I've got no issues. I'm not doing it." And he refused. And then it was probably, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was about there. And I was just so like, we had so many issues, that I was so fed up, and I was like, "Well, I'm leaving. Like, I don't want to be in this anymore."
Mm,
And then he had said, "No, no, I want to do this. I'll do couples therapy. I'll make this work." Um, I personally had thought he's just more afraid of what would everyone think. Oh, he got divorced. Like, oh my gosh, like, how would that look? So he said, "I'll do therapy," because he knew that's what I wanted. We booked the therapy, couples therapy, and then he canceled the like night before.
oh no.
So I booked it again, canceled the night before. So I don't think he was ever intending to do it.
Right.
Um, and I think he was only saying that he'd do it because he knew that's what I wanted, not what he wanted. So then eventually I did get him in on one. I was worried about doing it, um, just because of like, I feel like there's some narcissistic tendencies there. So I thought, if we do this, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to put forth my issues. I'm going to just let him speak freely,
Okay.
and we'll see how it goes, because he's never agreed to do this before, and I don't want it to blow up in my face, and I want to be able to have a second one. So I'll let it go, and then I'll voice a little bit of my stuff on our second session. So I did finally get a session with somebody, and it was awful.
Oh.
I didn't say much. Um, he made it look like I was all the problems. Even brought up for, like, he said, for example, Stephanie said she doesn't want me to mow the lawn anymore, and she just wants to let the grass all grow out and never mow the lawn, and then that would solve the issue of the lawn. Or it was like something weird, and I was
Yeah.
like, what? So I made a face so that the therapist knew, like, this is just bizarre, because I had said that I was concerned that things would be made up or brought out of proportion to make it look weird on me. Now, I should have said, no, we were having grass problems with the grass growing. There
Yeah.
was bald patches. And I just said one day, why don't we just let it grow and reseed? And then,
Mm-hmm.
because he had planted grass seed that was full of weeds,
Oh
and
no.
it was grass seed from a store, and we didn't really look into it, and he spread it all over, and there was weeds everywhere, and it choked out all the grass. And
Oh.
so I had just said, oh my gosh, like, what a mess. Why don't you just let the like pull out the weeds? I'll pull the weeds out, I don't mind, all the bad weeds, and just let the grass grow, reseed actual grass seed, and then we'll cut it down. That's all I had said. But
Yeah.
he goes and says, she even says, don't cut the grass anymore, blah 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 blah. I'm like, that is not true. And so
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. I hated it. There was a couple other things that were said, and I'm like, well. So then at the end of that one, I'm like, I can't believe, I knew this is why I didn't want to do counseling. I knew you'd do this. And I'm like, we're gonna have the next one, and I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna tell her, because that made me look so bad. And then he refused to go to any other ones.
Oh
So
my
it was just an
gosh.
awful experience. That was 5 years ago. So I don't know if he'd be willing to now. I think the same problems would happen,
Yeah.
um,
I'm sorry that
where it would
happened.
make. Pardon?
I'm sorry that happened. That's like an awful experience. You were so hopeful in doing that, and then this is what the outcome was.
But I did kind of think it would happen. Like, I figured that sort of thing would happen. So I wasn't shocked, but I was embarrassed, because I'm like, oh my God, she thinks that I said don't mow the lawn anymore. That's not even the conversation. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it would work if we tried it again.
Yeah.
Like, it could be something we could try, but I don't know.
Yeah, and what I would encourage you to, if you do try couples therapy again, is that I don't want you to feel like you don't have a voice in that session, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the two of
Yeah.
you going together to work on your issues or the things that you want to address. And for you to,
Yeah. Well, that's
right,
true.
not being vocal or staying silent in that session, it doesn't help him and it doesn't help the two of you progress forward. So I wouldn't want you to
Yeah. I
to
was just
not
worried
have
about
your
scaring him
voice.
off of it, like scaring him off of couples therapy, and I didn't want it to be like, for example, you as the therapist listening to us go back and forth, and it just being like this. I'm like, no, that would just be awful. Oh,
So
okay, that I'll just try. I'll just. But
I mean, that is
yeah, it wasn't good.
that's the essence of couples therapy, right? The therapist wants to see the two of you interact together. They need to be able to
Yeah,
see
true.
what's going on. And the therapist is the last person that's going to look at you and say, and judge you and, call out any criticisms. It's really, they're there to be that extra support person. So, um,
Yeah,
I don't, I know it's
yeah. So I'd have
uncomfortable.
to.
there's some shame
Yeah.
involved. There's some, you feel like, oh, I don't want people to look at us like this, and it's uncomfortable for sure. And
Yeah.
the
Well, I
therapy
kind of
room is
felt
the
like it
one
felt like
place.
tattling. Like if like tattling to mommy and daddy kind of thing. We're both there going, well, she did this, well, she did that, or he did this, and I'm like, I just don't want it to feel like tattling. But maybe that's kind of like what it is to work out the problems.
Yeah, like, expressing how you feel, it can be viewed as tattling, or it's just expression of what's going on in your relationship, the way you perceive what's going
Yeah.
on and the way he perceived what's going on. And until you actually
Yeah, I
vocalize
didn't
those
I didn't
things,
look at it that way.
yeah. I mean, there's no rush. You don't need to make a decision about that. It's just
Yeah.
something to consider because, you're taking steps to go to therapy, work on things for yourself. And
Hmm.
if he is not reciprocating or taking steps to work on himself too, it's going to make your journey that much more challenging.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That makes sense.
Yeah. So just something to consider. And in the meantime, we will, explore different things to kind of help you feel like you can approach him or get your feelings across to him in more effective
Okay.
ways.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm so proud of you and impressed with your dedication to being, open and, you know, forthcoming when it comes to your in-laws. And I'm glad it had a positive effect on you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it good. It did good.
Good. Good for you. I'm really glad.
Yeah.
Baby
Thank
steps,
you.
right? Just baby steps. Do whatever feels right,
Yeah.
whatever if you
Yeah,
feel
for sure.
comfortable with, that's what you try. I don't want you to feel like you're being pressured or pushed to do things out of your comfort zone, like extremely out of your
Yeah.
comfort zone. I know this was already uncomfortable enough. And
Yeah.
yeah, but you did it and you did it
Yeah.
well. So great job.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay. Did you want to book the next session?
Sure. I'm just looking. I didn't bring my. Oh, there. I've got my phone. So it's like it. We're in June, I would think.
Yes. Today is the 16th, so whatever you're looking at.
Um. So you think like maybe the week of June 7th or 8th?
Yeah, I can do, how about Tuesday, June 6th?
Okay.
Yeah, does that work?
Yep, that works.
Okay. You want to keep the same time, 7 o'clock?
Sure. Yeah, that works.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, perfect. So I will schedule that and you should get an email confirmation shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. It was really good to see you, and we'll chat soon.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Have a good
Bye. You
day.
too.